What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub, and today we're rolling right along with my picks for week 3 of the 2025-26 college football season. So we are officially 2 weeks into this pick series here, and we have an official record. I did start week 1 late, so the game totals might be a little weird, but we are 126 and 22 to start the year so far. I'm not going to boast anything about that because I have had some pretty decent losses up until this point. And also, the first couple weeks of college football really aren't that hard, in my opinion. For the bigger teams, you have your upsets here and there. You know, USF, which I did say was going to be a very close game in Florida. There, they did upset Florida. Tarleton State beat Army. You know, all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, before we get into this video, if you guys like daily uploads, now that the 2025-26 NFL season has started, I will be trying my very best to upload daily, whether that be shorts, whether that be player profiles, NFL draft gems, mock drafts, whatever it may be. I'm going to try and upload daily. And this series, the college football pick series, will be going as long as college football is being played. Same thing with the NFL. So without further delay, let's get into it. So we have a Thursday night game, September 11th. Not the greatest day, admittedly, to play a football game, but I digress. You have NC State at Wake Forest, and NC State and CJ Bailey have looked very, very impressive so far. I do think that this is going to be a win for NC State, coming off of a very thrilling victory last week, 2-0 start to the year. This was an NC State team that I think a lot of people weren't really expecting to be as competitive so far, and if they can get off to a 3-0 start, that would be awesome. I am going to take NC State in the first game of the week on Thursday. Moving on to our Friday matchups here, we have Indiana State taking on Indiana, and what a nice 3-game stretch for Indiana to start the year off. This is another FCS opponent for them. They didn't look great in week 1. They looked much better in week 2. I fully expect Fernando Mendoza, Roman Hemby, all those guys that transferred into Indiana to fully take charge in this game and get fine-tuned to the point where if they win this game, they'll probably be top 20, I would say, and make the charge for the college football playoffs yet again. So give me Indiana over Indiana State. Then you move on to Syracuse and Colgate. Syracuse is a team that through the first 2 weeks of the season, I haven't had any faith in whatsoever. I picked against them both weeks. Last week, I was certain that UConn was going to go into Syracuse and beat them. It was a thrilling overtime comeback victory for Syracuse. Give me Syracuse over Colgate. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward here. Like I said, if you guys are new to this series, anytime that there is like a gimme matchup, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It just doesn't really make sense. I mean, we're picking like 70-something games here. So, I just a quick quip about every single game, and then we're moving on to the next, or else we're going to be here all day. And you have Houston hosting Colorado. Now, this is one game that I think is going to be tricky to call. Connor Wegman hasn't looked terrific against some lesser opponents. Houston is 2-0. They are hosting. Tanner Koziel is making his case for the Mackey Award. Colorado going with a new starting quarterback going into this week, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. They have a little bit of a 3-headed monster at quarterback. So let's see how that goes with a new starter. And Caden Salter is going to be benched for this game. Give me Houston over Colorado, though. I do think that I don't know. Every time that a new quarterback starts, usually kind of lights a fire under the butt of every player on that offense. But I don't know. I don't think this is the greatest matchup for Colorado on paper. So give me Houston to beat Colorado here. And you have Kansas State taking on Arizona. This Kansas State team is weird to me. They just have underperformed so far this year. They don't look great. They're playing an Arizona team that is kind of sort of flying at the moment, but I think Kansas State matches up very well against Arizona. I mean, what did they play? North Arizona last week, and Noah Fafita threw for like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. I don't expect that to happen. I do expect this is going to be a closer game than expected, in my opinion, but give me Kansas State over Arizona. New Mexico at UCLA. This is the game where I think the Bruins get on track. They have looked pretty terrible in their first 2 games. Nico Lamalieva hasn't really lived up to the hype. This is a guy that just has all the talent in the world and seemingly can't put it together on a consistent basis. He also doesn't have too much help around him, to be fair, at UCLA. But New Mexico traveling into UCLA, I think this is as good as their first victory of the season. So give me UCLA over New Mexico. Now we're going to move on to the Saturday matchups here. Big noon Saturday, kicking off with Oregon at Northwestern. Northwestern with a very, very nice bounce back win after Preston Stone threw 4 interceptions in his first game with Northwestern. He played very, very well in the second game, but Oregon is just a machine that looks like they're not going to be stopped anytime soon until they run into either Ohio State or Penn State. So give me Oregon at Northwestern big. Clemson and Georgia Tech. This seems like a trap game because Clemson has not looked great. They scored 10 points against LSU, and LSU has a very, very sound defense. So I was willing to look past that. But then against Troy, it was a weird game. There was lightning. It was delayed. You know, that any player that's amped up for a game could be turned off in a matter of seconds when you have to sit when you're all amped up to play. So I will, for another week, give them the benefit of the doubt, even though they only scored 27 points. And we're losing for quite a bit of that game against Troy. Don't think I forgot about that. Georgia Tech is a tough team. I think this game is going to be razor thin. I think whoever wins the turnover battle wins this game. Georgia Tech is a very tough team. Give me Clemson, though, at Georgia Tech, maybe by a field goal. It's going to be close. You have Oklahoma at Temple. Temple's played some very respectable ball so far this year, but Oklahoma and John Mateer, he looks like a true Heisman frontrunner at this point. Give me the Sooners over Temple. Then you have Wisconsin at Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Yeah, Alabama, of course, got back on track last week, a 73-0 win over Louisiana Monroe. They didn't have to do that to them. That was kind of crazy. But Wisconsin, again, is a weird team right now. They haven't played their best ball that we've seen them play going through its transition at the quarterback position. You know, Billy Edwards hasn't really looked that spectacular either in his own right. But I fully expect the Alabama Crimson Tide to, look even better. I mean, going up against Louisiana Monroe, that's more of a tune-up game. Wisconsin is more of a name right now than they are a team, respectfully. But I think Alabama is going to look very, very good against this team. Give me Alabama. Central Michigan and Michigan. Michigan dropping all the way down to 23, I feel like is a little harsh. They played a very, very good and a very stout Oklahoma team Saturday night. I think it's a little harsh for them. I think they fully bounce back and they get the victory over Central Michigan, who the Chippewas actually haven't looked bad this year either. But against Michigan, I think they'll be fine. I think Bryce Underwood he missed quite a few. He overshot quite a few deep balls last week. So I hope that issue gets corrected as time goes on, because he definitely did have some receivers deep down the field that were open that he just overshot that could have turned the game on its head. Houston Christian at Nebraska. Give me Nebraska and Dylan Raiola. Nebraska's got something cooking. I honestly think that they're on the fringe of the top 25 as we speak. And if they get a victory here, I could see them sneaking into the top 25. So give me Nebraska over Houston Christian. Maryland hosting Towson. And let me tell you something. Malik Washington has looked fantastic so far through 2 games. Give me Washington. I said Washington. Give me Maryland over Towson here. I think Malik Washington is going to be the true freshman sensation of the season. He's looked really, really good. I fully expect them to ride him to a victory again. Ride him to a victory again this week. Virginia hosting William and Mary. Give me Virginia over William and Mary. I think that's pretty straightforward. Same thing. Baylor finally has a easier matchup as week 1 they played Auburn. Week 2 they beat SMU. Sawyer Robertson is playing some fantastic football. If you guys aren't familiar with my channel and aren't familiar with my content or my work, you know how extremely high I've been on Sawyer Robertson since about last draft cycle. I think the guy is a first-round talent, to be quite honest with you. I'd be shocked if he didn't continue his amazing plays. He got over 800 passing yards, 7 touchdowns already through 2 games. He's basically the reason why Baylor was even in either of those 2 first games. So give me Baylor over Samford. Troy and Memphis. Again, Troy is playing some fairly okay ball to start the year. They, held Clemson to 27 points, and they were leading for quite a while there in that game. But this Memphis team is built to beat up on these smaller teams. So give me Memphis in a closer one than expected over Troy, away from home. Buffalo and Kent State. Buffalo, what can we say about Kent State? They almost lost to Merrimack. Really, I mean, any team in the FBS, in the MAC rather, is going to beat Kent State. Give me Buffalo over Kent State. I think I might stop this series when I finally pick Kent State to win a game again. Obviously, I picked them in week 1 to beat Merrimack, but other than that, I mean, there's no other team that I could really see them winning. Auburn finally getting a little bit of respect here at number 24 in the country, taking on South Alabama. I fully expect the offense to keep rolling, getting better and better as time goes on under Jackson Arnold. The defense, Keldrick Falk is an unbelievable player, a top 10 player in the class for me. I fully expect the Auburn machine to keep rolling against South Alabama. Then you have Ball State and New Hampshire. And honestly, this was a game that I was considering going with the FCS school here, but give me Ball. I mean, the way that FBS teams have beaten up over FCS teams this year, even the smaller. I mean, UCF beat. I don't remember who their opponent was last week, but they won like 69-0. And UCF is not a team that will score 69 points easily. So give me Ball State over New Hampshire. Moving on to the next game here, you have UConn at Delaware. Kind of lost a heartbreaker. I'm not going to lie, against Syracuse. They fully had that game really kind of wrapped up early on, and they let Syracuse hang around. And Steve Angeli played a hell of a game, and it kind of bit them in the butt. And they lost a game that they probably should have won. So they're 1-1 going into Delaware. Delaware's had a rough go of it. This was supposed to be an exciting offense for Delaware. Haven't seen them catch their footing yet. It's a tough go of it this year. They actually do have a pretty tough schedule considering they are a brand new FBS team. So give me UConn away from home against Delaware. Villanova going into Happy Valley against Penn State. So yeah, let's see how that goes for them. Obviously, I'm taking Penn State over them. Georgia and Tennessee is fueled to be one of the better games of the week. Joey Aguilar actually has quite the arm on him. I was very critical of that transfer. I thought it was a very scared last minute transfer in for Tennessee, but he's proven to be pretty decent so far. Georgia just looks like the SEC machine that they are. Yeah, I don't think Georgia is the big bad Georgia that everyone feared a few years ago, but I still think they're going to be a team at the end of the year that has 10 or 11 wins and always somehow finds themselves in the SEC championship game. Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, Oscar Delp, Nate Frazier. This team is just rolling right along at the right time. They played a couple way lesser opponents in Marshall, and I don't remember who they played last week, but it's going to be tough for Georgia. I don't think this is as easy especially for their defense, which does have an incredible amount of talent on it, but probably the least amount of talent in the secondary maybe that we've seen in quite a few years. But I do think Georgia roll into Tennessee, and they do get the job done. Texas Tech taking on Oregon State. What the hell is going on with Oregon State? They are a disaster of a program right now. Give me Texas Tech to keep rolling. Behren Morton is one of the more exciting quarterbacks, not only in the Big 12, but in college football in general. I fully expect him to roll right along and continue his string of very, very awesome starts. USC and Purdue, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and take USC in that one. A rough go of it at the beginning of the year for Purdue. That's a tough opponent. Rutgers, excuse me, Jesus. Rutgers hosting Norfolk State. Yeah, give me Rutgers on that. I'm happy with the way as someone who lives in New York, the closest FBS team in my vicinity is Rutgers. So I do have a soft spot for Rutgers. I do root for them to do well, and I think they've had a really nice start to the season. So I expect them to fully roll right along and win in this week as well. Youngstown State taking on Michigan State. Aiden Chili's with a fantastic game last week against Boston College. That was one of the tougher games to call. I think I did have Michigan State last week. That was a very tough game to call. What was it? 45, 43 in overtime or something like that. He was exceptional. I expect them to dominate Youngstown State. Washington State and North Texas, and I'll be quite honest with you guys, I really don't have much faith at all in Washington State. I mean, they haven't looked great up until this point of the season, especially almost losing to Idaho. North Texas, despite losing Chandler Morris, have kind of, status quo, business as usual. Their offense looks great. Their defense looks much improved from the 36.5 points per game they were giving up last year. Yeah, give me North Texas over Washington State. You have SMU, who is now unranked, going to Missouri State, who's coming off of their first ever FBS victory over Marshall at 21-20. Give me SMU. I think SMU is angry. I think they went from having one of the best defenses in the ACC last year to giving up a ton of points already this year. I think they're angry. I think they're going to take their anger out on this poor Missouri State team, and I think they're going to win big in Missouri State. Pittsburgh and West Virginia, man. West Virginia really let me down last week. A stinker of an effort against Ohio, losing 17-10. I'm definitely not picking them again. This Pitt team is rolling right along. Eli Holstein, Desmond Reed. They look pretty good. They look very, very sound on offense. Defensively, they look good as well. So give me this Pittsburgh team over West Virginia. North Carolina and Richmond, Bill Belichick is unfortunately going to wind up having at least an 8-4 season just because of how cookie cutter North Carolina's schedule is. After getting blown out by TCU, they played Charlotte. They didn't even really dominate Charlotte. What was the final score of that game? It was like 20-6 or something like that. Richmond, another FCS team. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think Gio Lopez and co. win soundly against Richmond. Then you have Cincinnati taking on Northwestern State. Obviously, give me Cincinnati. Brendan Sorsby is playing some good football. Joe Royer is playing some good football. Another really, really impressive tight end. Give me Cincinnati. Give me the Bearcats over Northwestern State. You have UTSA taking on Incarnate Wood. That is the first alma mater of Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick this past NFL draft. Give me UTSA. Give me the Roadrunners. I fully expect their offense to kind of sort of get back on track. They haven't been as explosive as I initially thought they were going to be at the start of the season, but this is the perfect game for them to get right back on track offensively. You have Toledo and Morgan State. Give me Toledo, and the Tucker Gleason train keeps on chugging against another FCS opponent. Iowa State taking on Arkansas State. Man, this Red Wolves team was a team that I really thought was going to be relatively okay, maybe even push for a bowl game, but their defense, after losing their top 14 tacklers from last year, just has not looked great. This Iowa State team looks primed to win the Big 12. They have, despite losing 2 of the best weapons that program has ever seen in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, despite losing Darian Porter on the other side of the ball, they have just seamlessly played some fantastic football with Rocco Beck as well. I fully expect them to keep that rolling along. Iowa State over Arkansas State there. Louisiana and number 25, Bo Pribula led Missouri Tigers. Yeah, the Tigers could potentially be for real with Bo Pribula at the helm. A lot of people are putting him into the Heisman watch early on. I mean, he did play great against Kansas. I will give him that. Let's pump the brakes on that a little bit. But Missouri, I did pick Kansas last week, so I did lose that game. But Missouri is rolling right along into the top 25 for a team that I fully didn't really expect to be there at this point. Yeah, give me Missouri to keep rolling along. Texas taking on UTEP. Am I the only one that thinks Arch Manning has looked okay, not really that great? Even the 4-touchdown performance against San Jose State last week didn't look as convincing as I thought he could have. So it's going to take him a little bit of time, but I think that he will, this is a nice little string of easy opponents that they have until their next tough test. So I think he will be all right the next time that a Power 4 team rolls around. So give me Texas big over UTEP. This is, I really don't want to take Miami in this game because South Florida, first off, what a gauntlet for the first 3 weeks for South Florida. They destroyed number 25 Boise State. They go into Florida, number 15 Florida. They beat them. Now they're staying in Florida, the southern part of Florida, and they're going up against number 5 Miami as the number 18 team in the country. I'm very tempted to take South Florida. I did say last week that it was going to be a lot closer than people thought, and they wound up winning. I did not pick them, but I did say that it was going to be close, and it was. But give me Miami. Miami has given me no reason to think that they are going to be slowed up by this South Florida team. But Byron Brown being healthy and at the helm of this offense is speaks volumes for this team. They are firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. I do expect it to be close. I don't think the 17.5 point line is going to be indicative of how the game actually goes. You have Liberty at Bowling Green. Another disappointing team for me so far. Give me Bowling Green over Liberty. Liberty just kind of looks all sort of out of whack. I think I had them winning Conference USA this year. I I don't think that they are going to be that close, to be honest with you, unless they could really turn something around. They've looked pretty pitiful on offense the first couple of games. Give me Bowling Green over Liberty. Middle Tennessee State and Nevada. This is the battle of absolutely mid. Give me Nevada over Middle Tennessee State, especially after the way that they looked the first couple weeks of the season. My goodness, they've looked pretty terrible. Mississippi State and Alcorn State. Is this going to be? That is the Alcorn State is the alma mater of Steve McNair, I want to say. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Steve McNair did go to Alcorn State. Mississippi State is going to be 3-0, aren't they? I'm taking Mississippi State over Alcorn State. I mean, an extremely impressive upset victory over Arizona State this past week. You know, they beat Southern Miss in week 1. They looked really good, especially defensively. I think 3-0 is more than likely in their future. Kudos to them so far. Florida Atlantic and Florida International here. Again, another battle of mid, but Florida Atlantic is I think leaps and bounds better than Florida International. So give me FAU over FIU. Kennesaw State and Merrimack. We spoke about Merrimack earlier today. Yeah, give me Kennesaw State over them, because if you lose to Kent State, I don't think you'll ever win a football game. So that's really all I have to say about that. Give me Kennesaw State over them. Marshall taking on Eastern Kentucky. This again feels like kind of a trap game. Marshall has not looked great. I mean, granted, they played Georgia, but then they also played Missouri State and lost to them too. But Eastern Kentucky, I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to take Marshall over Eastern Kentucky. Charlotte and Monmouth. Again, another team that hasn't looked particularly great so far this year, but Charlotte never really looks great on the offensive side of the ball, so I can't really blame them. But give me Charlotte over Monmouth. And you have Ohio State and Ohio. Again, another team that hasn't looked particularly great in loss or in win. Ohio with a 17-10 win over West Virginia last week after losing a one-score game to Rutgers in week 1, I want to say. But yeah, give me Ohio State. They're going to continue to fire on all cylinders. Number 9, Illinois against Western Michigan. Illinois with a huge statement win last week against Duke, 45-19. It was close. I think it was a 1 or 2 point game at halftime, and then Illinois and Luke Altmaier and co just kind of blew them out of the water in the second half. That defense really showed up, and that was the most impressive part for me. Give me the Fighting Illini over the Western Michigan Broncos in this one. You have Ole Miss hosting Arkansas. Taylon Green could potentially pose a little bit of a problem for this Ole Miss defense, but at the end of the day, I think Ole Miss, even though Austin Simmons really kind of kept Kentucky in that game last week with 2 really bad interceptions, I expect him to, pardon me, that was crazy. I expect him to fully bounce back this week against Arkansas and their porous. You have Old Dominion going to Lane Stadium with Virginia Tech. Give me Virginia Tech over ODU in that one. Jacksonville State taking on Georgia Southern. Give me Georgia Southern in this one. Again, another team that I really thought was kind of going to start off a lot hotter than they did. This is a really good game for them. Jacksonville State, in their own right, has won a game that I didn't think that they were going to win so far this season. But at Georgia Southern, I think that rushing attack is really going to pose problems for the front 7 of Jacksonville State. The Gamecocks. Moving on, Murray State and Georgia State, and I could finally say that I think Georgia State's going to win a game. This offense is really, really impressive. They had one of the better transfer portals of any team in the FBS. I fully expect them to be able to show it this week against Murray State. Southern Miss and App State. This is a tough one here. I'm going to go with Southern Miss, though. App State against Lindenwood won by 7 points last week. They haven't looked particularly spectacular on the offensive side of the ball in their first 2 weeks under Dowell Loggins. That should really tell you something. Yeah, give me Southern Miss and Charles Huff over App State in this one. Rice and Prairie View A&M. Give me Rice over Prairie View A&M. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. LSU and Florida men. It is a brutal. that loss to South Florida could really pose a huge problem for the Florida Gators this year because the rest of their schedule is absolutely brutal. There's no reason to believe that this team can't go like 6-6 or 7-5. It's a brutal schedule for them. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I had them at 8-4 at the end of the season. This LSU team is firing on all cylinders on the defensive side. And that's great because Garrett Nussmeier hasn't really been firing on all cylinders on the offensive side. So the fact that the defense is not carrying, but really holding their weight is a really good sign for Brian Kelly's team. The number 3 overall team, I believe, is going to handle Florida pretty soundly. Then you have my Texas A&M Aggies at Notre Dame. This is a tough one for me. The Aggies are firing on all cylinders in their own right. Marcel Reed has been making me eat my own words. He's made some very impressive throws. They also haven't played really anyone noteworthy up until this point. I mean, they played UTSA and they played Utah State, so lesser teams, but not FCS teams. But Notre Dame, especially coming off of a loss week 1 against Miami, I think they already know that it's do or die for them for the college football playoffs because their schedule gets immensely easier after this. The 2 toughest opponents on their schedule are the first 2 weeks. If they could walk out of this game with a win, they're probably going to win the next 10 after that. So they're probably going to go 11-1 after that. So give me Notre Dame over Texas A&M in this one, even though I do think it'll be close. Eastern Michigan and Kentucky. I mean, listen, Eastern Michigan lost to Long Island University. Obviously, I'm taking Kentucky in this one. And Kentucky almost came back against Ole Miss. I mean, who expected that? So, yeah, we're obviously going with Kentucky there. Iowa and UMass. UMass is a disaster. They should either dissolve the program or go back to the FCS. Is there something lower than the FCS in Division I? Whatever it is, if there is, they should go to that. Maybe even consider going to Division II or III. They really are that bad of a program. Give me Iowa over UMass. Louisiana Tech hosting New Mexico State. Give me, I have my paper right in front of me here. Give me New Mexico State over Louisiana Tech. I don't know, just LA Tech. Just Louisiana Tech doesn't really, I don't know. New Mexico State actually put up I believe they played, did they play, was it UTSA or UTEP last week? I think it was UTEP. I usually get New Mexico and New Mexico State wrong, but I believe New Mexico State lost to UTEP last week. But this is a team of pretty mid teams, and this line to me is crazy. Louisiana Tech minus 9.5 over New Mexico State. They have a couple good playmakers on their team. I'm going to go with the potential upset. I'm going to take New Mexico State over Louisiana Tech. East Carolina and Coastal Carolina. Give me East Carolina in this one. Coastal Carolina's offense just has been there. The Chanticleers haven't looked that great on the offensive side of the ball. Eastern Carolina make their bread and butter on the offensive side. I know that's not how you say that, but that's how I'm going to use it in this one. I know that's where they make their bread and butter on the offensive side of the ball. Give me East Carolina there. South Carolina hosting Vanderbilt. Lenora Sellers has looked fantastic so far this season. I fully expect him and Nick Harbor and all that offensive and defensive talent they have to keep rolling right along over Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. I think Utah has been genuinely disrespected through the first 2 weeks of the season because how are they still only ranked 20th? I know they beat UCLA and I don't remember who they played this past week, but they won like 56-3 or something like that. But man, this team's really good on both sides of the ball. They have plenty of talent. Devin Dampier looks like a Heisman candidate. And they got another easier opponent in Wyoming. So I fully expect Utah to kind of wipe the floor with the Cowboys. Tulane and Duke. This is the Darian Mensah Bowl. Give me Duke over Tulane. I think even though Duke kind of fell flat on their face in the second half, I do love the talent that they have on both sides of the ball, especially on the defensive side. I think Jake Retzlaff is going to have a little bit of problems with the secondary of Duke. So give me Duke over Tulane in the Darian Mensah Bowl. And you have TCU after a very impressive week 1 victory over UNC, over Unk University, going up against Abilene Christian. Give me TCU. Josh Hoover is very quietly one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, and I fully expect him to have a 5 or 6 touchdown performance in this one. Navy and Tulsa. Give me Navy and their quintuple option attack over Tulsa. Poor Tulsa is probably not going to stand a chance in that one. Oh my God. Akron and UAB. That is just what a battle there. Give me UAB over that one. Hey, Trent Dilfer's finally going to win a game this year. So, yeah, UAB over Akron. My God, there's some basement duels in this one this week. Air Force and Utah State. Am I the only one that I don't even know off the top of my head? I don't remember. I don't recall seeing them in week one. Have they even played a game yet this year, or did they have bye weeks and back to back weeks? But Air Force, I think, is going to beat Utah State here in this one. Air Force is a team that always gets off to a super hot start at the beginning of the year and then kind of falls off a cliff. So I wouldn't be surprised if they start off like 6-0 and wind up 6-6. Southern University and Fresno State. Give me Fresno State. A very impressive start to the season for the Fresno State Bulldogs, rolling right along. Minnesota and Cal is probably a closer game than a lot of people would expect at this point. Don't even ask me how to say Cal's true freshman quarterback's name. I'm not even going to attempt it, but he has been awesome through 2 weeks. But Minnesota, Drake Lindsay, Darius Taylor, I think that they go into Cal and they beat Cal soundly. Boston College at Stanford. Give me the Eagles over Stanford after the week. Oh no, Hawaii beat Stanford. That's right. Yeah, I don't know what Frank Reich's doing over there, but yeah, give me Boston College, 12.5-point favorites over Stanford for sure. Texas State and Arizona State, similar to the SMU Missouri State game. I think Arizona State's going to go into this game being very upset that they lost a game like that to Mississippi State. So give me Arizona State big over Texas State, who is going to be a member of the new Pac-12 next year. And the final game of the week, Portland State traveling to Hawaii. Give me Hawaii over Portland State. I love what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. Michael Alejo it looks like a really, really savvy young quarterback that's going to keep developing into a really, really good player. And Portland State, is an FCS team that I still think over the next couple of years, Portland State is going to be knocking on the door of making a move to the FBS. That's just me. They seem like they're moving closer and closer to that as time goes on. But yeah, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is my week 3 of the college football season predictions for every game. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know if you disagree with any of my picks. Thank you guys so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.